Hello, everyone. This is my first YouTube show, and I'm so happy to be here. Welcome to the very first episode of my YouTube series, diving into all things real estate, specifically new development and market trends. I'm Cindy Gyokai, a real estate expert with 20 years of experience. I specialize in new developments for the past 7 years, where I led and trained sales teams and built a deep understanding of how foreign capitals flows into the New York City real estate market. And in the recent light of events and the controversy over the newly proposed Golden Visa versus the EB-5, I have an expert here with me, Marco Issavar, who is the true expert in EB-5. And he's here to tell us about what EB-5 is versus the Golden Visa, what are the differentiations of both programs. But first things first, Marco, welcome and thank you for being here.
Great to be here, Cindy. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to address your viewers, listeners, and everybody else.
Thank you so much. Is there anything I missed? Can you tell us a little bit about your background and experience and how you built the EB-5 company?
Sure. It's a second career for me. I am a Wall Street veteran. I like to call myself a Wall Street veteran. I've been in Wall Street over 30 years. I used to run the sales desk globally of Bank of New York's derivative department. Before that, I was one of the founding members of the Japanese subsidiary, which used to be called Sakura Global Capital, merged with Sumitomo, still in existence as Sumitomo Mitsui. And before that, I was in mortgage-backed securities. I did CMOs and all sorts of different things in prudential securities. So it's amazing that even though I like to call myself a Wall Street veteran, shame on me and all my friends, up until 2014-15, I had no idea what EB-5 was. You introduced me as the expert, which very kind of you, but I am a very recent expert. I am an expert in derivatives. You can ask me anything you want about interest rate derivatives, but the EB-5 is something that I picked up, and it's really by, I would say, coincidence. There was tremendous amount of retrogression, another buzzword. So backtrack. The market was just a Chinese market. The investors, the migration agents, everything about the EB-5 up until, I would say, 2013-14 was Chinese, except, of course, the developers, because they needed to invest in the US. Even though the quota for the visas are 10,000, which basically corresponds to 2,500 to 3,000 families, because the quota includes the dependents. From China, they were getting back then, I wasn't in the business, but they were getting back then, maybe 5,000, 10,000, maybe even more applicants, investors. So what that made it, they immediately hit their quotas, and the processing time for them went into 10 years, 15 years, maybe even longer. They were getting approved their EB-5, which is called 526, but they wouldn't be able to get a visa. Visa availability was retrogressed. So you had this whole ecosystem of EB-5 market with the real estate developers, migration agents, lawyers, immigration lawyers, all sorts of things. No customers. There are no customers. There are no investors. There are no applicants. So that's when I kind of got into this. I was actually in a meeting with one of the large real estate developers in New York City, in fact. And in the middle of the meeting, he said, "Why don't you raise EB-5 for us?" In one of the markets. I guess your viewers might see from my last name, pronounced Ish Sever. I'm Turkish. So he said, "Why don't you, see if you can raise some EB-5 for us in Turkey?" And that's how I jumped in. And slowly but surely, we now cover, I wouldn't say
Hmm.
all, but most regional centers are our clients. And we have clients from all over the world. And funny, because we got into the business because the Chinese exited. But then 3 years ago, there was a new law that passed, which called the Reform and Integrity Act of 2022, to bring back the Chinese. We can talk about that in later, but what that did is now the Chinese are back because of that. I'll explain, later why. And now we're doing Chinese also. So we have a lot of Chinese customers now, um, which is, I think it's interesting anyway.
So that is how we also started with the project, the introduction to my developer back in the day who wanted to introduce an EB-5 component. How many years ago was that, Marco? Wow.
Pretty much 10 years. I mean, 8 years, maybe 8 to 10 years. I don't know. I mean, I want
That's
to say
true.
2016, definitely not, like 16, 17. I mean, it was a long time ago.
Right. It was a long time ago, and that's how we got introduced. And it was a great start to our relationship in terms of bringing an EB-5 component to the new construction. With that being said, some of the viewers that are watching this may not know what EB-5 is, or there are many misconceptions about the investment and whether that investment goes directly to the developer or whether or not that investment goes towards the purchase of an apartment. There's so many different layers to it. Can you explain to us how EB-5 works?
Thank you. I mean, that's a great question, and it's essential that investors understand what it is because it's maybe Canada. I mean, just about every other country's residency citizenship program differs from the one in the United States. So that's why there is this misconception, and I mean, I live that, all the time. So yes, the investors are not investing in the purchase of a real estate. And I'll tell you why. Because first of all, in EB-5, strictly speaking, I mean, if you check the law, it doesn't have to be real estate. Uh, the law says that the investor either directly or indirectly supposed to create 10 jobs. So he could have a factory making widgets and selling those widgets in the factory as long as he can employ 10 Americans or people who have a work permit, like green card holder, whatever, 10 people who can work in the United States, then he will be eligible to get the green, EB-5 as long as he makes the required investment. The required investment today is for what we call targeted employment area as $800,000, and for urban areas $1,050,000.
Mm-hmm.
And the targeted employment area projects are divided to three different categories. There are the rural kinds, there are the urban TEA, and then the infrastructure. So the law that passed in 2022 allows some visa set-asides, which give priority, which give privileges to retrogress countries, like we said, China and most recently India, where there has been way more applicants than their country quotas or even the global quotas. They can avail themselves to these visa set-asides, and they have been, so they can get in. So, but going back to your question, in terms of the real estate, no, they're not investing the money on real estate. They are actually participating in the capital structure of the project. A typical project is going to have a senior loan, maybe 60% of the financing. 20% will be what we call this, the EB-5 mezz debt or something like that. And then 20% would be, developers' equity. So that's an average deal. A deal that has more than 60% debt is, in our view, over leveraged. A, a deal where the developer has put less than 20% equity, doesn't have enough skin in the game. So those are the two things that we do look at. Like, the more developer puts equity, increases that number, the more we like the deal. And the senior loan is a different story. I mean, that's not an easy conversation, because there are basically two types of deals. There are the deals where there's a senior loan and the EB-5, and then there is another type of deal that's become very popular nowadays, where the EB-5 is in the senior position, so there is nobody above the EB-5. Now, it sounds nice. It sounds great, that every penny that comes in the deal is going to go to the EB-5 first, and there's nobody who's going to take the money before. But when you think about it, if that is because the EB-5 financing is so much cheaper than other financing, then fine. But if it is because the developer couldn't really get anybody professional to lend them money, and the only way they can finance this project is through EB-5 and some of their own money, then that doesn't sound that good. So when a EB-5 is in the senior position, we don't immediately give a check mark. We used to give X before, but in other words, we never took a deal where there wasn't a senior loan, because we said, if a professional investor goes for an LTV, loan to value ratio, of, let's say, 60%, it's good enough for us with the EB-5 to go for 70%. But if nobody's there, even if we're at the top, we're not going to touch that deal. Nowadays, in the last year and a half, whatever, since rates have become so high, they're coming down now, but comparatively speaking, when we started the EB-5, rates are much higher. We can see why developers are opting for EB-5 to be in senior position rather than having a deal with a senior loan and EB-5.
And there's another misconception. How long does the EB-5 process take from start to finish? I mean, it's not like you're just going to put in these funds and immediately think that you're going to be getting a green card, right? How does that process work?
Okay, so I want to answer it in two stages. One, like I want to say, before the Reform and Integrity Act, before the Reform and Integrity Act passed, whether an applicant was in the United States or outside the United States, it didn't make a difference. So it was the same. So they used to come to us and say, once we make this investment, or at least once we make the application, can we jump on a plane and come to the United States? So the answer was, of course, no. You have to have a visa. Well, the application, this EB-5, is an application for the visa. Isn't that enough? No, it's not enough. So that was the misconception. But the misconception carried even further, in the sense that once that EB-5, meaning the 526, is approved, can I then get in the plane and come to the United States? And the answer was no. Right? Because once the 526 is approved, now you have I'm talking about before the law, right? Right. I have to explain that in order to be able to explain what it is today. So the background is important. So once your 526 is approved, then you go to the consulate or embassy or whatever with your approval, and then you can get a green card stamped on your passport, and then you come here and then you receive your physical green card. That was then. Now, with the new law, something amazing happened, which, just to give you an idea, students here, mostly Chinese, workers here with H-1B visa, mostly Indians, are using it heavily. The concept of concurrent filing. So the new law that passed is allowing investors to do concurrent filing. What does it mean? What it means is that if they are in the United States with a non-immigrant visa, they can not only apply for the EB-5 the way they used to apply before the law passed, but to go 526, 526E really. If it's a direct EB-5, it's 526. If it's regional center, it's 526E, just to complete. So once but together with that, now they can apply for adjustment of status, which is a fancy way of saying applying for the green card, and then at the same time work permit and travel permit. So 4 applications at the same time. Now, why is that important? It's important because when a person here, a student or a H-1B, worker, H-1B visa holding worker, when they go into this business, that EB-5, they're doing it for 2 reasons. One is to be able to work here. Like, in other words, once they graduate, they want to be able to get a job, live here, work here. And the second thing is they want to be able to freely travel back and forth, wherever they are from, India, China, where they want to go back and forth. So once they get the travel permit and the work permit, I mean, what benefit is the green card? Obviously they want to get the money back, and in order to get the money back, even that actually changed. We can, if there's time, we can talk about the requirements for getting the money back. There's a litigation going on, whatever. Let's keep it focused. So, so to answer your question, so that's for people who are here, they can get within months work permit, again within months travel permit, and then the benefit of the concurrent filing of the 526 and the green card is that they don't have to wait for the 526 to be approved so that they can apply for the green card. They already applied for the green card. So many times you'll see a situation where when the 526 is approved, they can actually get the green card, because it's like they're moving, the 2 applications are moving at the same time. If they are applying from overseas, say China, India, Turkey, wherever, if they're applying from overseas, things have not changed. The only thing that has changed is that we're talking again processing times for rural projects, and for the viewers to know, rural, as far as EB-5 is concerned, does not mean chicken and farms and cows and goats. What it means is that the municipal statistical area, the population, is less than 20,000. That's what it means. In fact, as far as EB-5 is concerned, these are the most affluent places in the United States. These rural areas, where the projects are, the hotel rooms at the peak time, like a ski, season, they are going as high as like $10,000 a night. So don't think that when we say rural, there's some idea out there that the rural projects are very risky. No. I mean, they can be risky because of other reasons, and maybe we will talk about, how we actually look at projects, how we compare one project and the other. But the fact that it's a rural project does not mean it's automatically risky. Just like if it's an urban project, it doesn't mean that it's riskless. So
right.
The urban project can be very risky, and a rural project can be extremely safe. So, the processing time to get a green card today, much better than the COVID period. Pretty much the way it used to be probably in 2017, 18. I want to say between 9 months and the outside like 15 months. You should be able to get a green card, to finish the whole process. Maybe this is a segue to, the current regime, Trump and this and that. I think depends on really how the new government is going to staff USCIS. organization under the government that processes these applications. If there are enough people, adjudicators there, obviously things are going to be, the same or if not better. But if we get some cuts, I mean, we're seeing government, different departments are getting cuts. If USCIS, has cuts as well, I mean, that could obviously change things, change the processing times. I want to take 30 seconds to explain one thing that has also happened, good thing. It used to be where if each adjudicator would, when the file comes, and the file was like 1,000 pages, they would analyze the project because it was part of the investor's application, and then the investor's application. It was an extremely inefficient process because each adjudicator of adjudicating the investor's petition would first have to be familiarize himself with the project, and then have some questions about the project, nothing to do with the investor, and then start talking about the source of funds of the investor. So they did something amazing. Now we have this concept of 956F, which is almost like regional centers have their own application. So you have the investors applying to USCIS for their own application, and the projects are also applying. But the nice thing is that when the project applies, and if you're talking about a household name, 99% of the time, if not 100, they're going to be approved. So you get that sort of approval, and you get all those papers, and it becomes a reference. You say, this investor. So from 1,000 pages, bottom line, it came down to 50 pages. So the adjudicator now is already, and also they are assigning the same adjudicator who already is familiar with the project to different investors who are applying to that project. So they really made the things much more efficient, and that probably has something to do with the processing times to come down the way they've come down.
Yeah, that streamlines the process for you because that's less work when somebody else is already doing the work in terms of claiming what need to be said for the new development. Right. So that's helpful. This also gives us a perfect transition into our next subject now that we have a background of EB-5, the golden visa. What that means, the investment for the golden visa is significantly more. Since that, first of all, what is golden visa? And then the next question is going to be, since the investment for the golden visa is significantly more, are you seeing an increase for EB-5 currently?
Order, shall I answer?
I know.
Anyway, whatever. I'm just going to answer, and if I don't answer something, please do ask the question again. So, let's not leave anything unanswered.
Let's start with what is the Golden Visa program? Okay.
The Golden Visa program, as it proposed right now, and we're lacking a lot of details, I want to say, because we were promised when it was announced, now, 2 weeks ago? It was announced, and we're supposed to, by now, have the detail. We have almost no details. But what we know about it is that it's not an investment program. It's a donation program. And there are donation programs, by the way, in other countries. It's not like uncommon. You got in Grenada, of course, not 5 million, but this number is 5 million here. There are, Caribbean countries definitely have it. Malta has it, I believe. So it's always an alternative. You could, in other countries, I'm saying, like you could make a real estate investment, or you can make a donation to the government, and you kind of get this path. Here, the $5 million version, the Golden Visa, is a donation. What privileges does it bring with it? First, it gives you, I guess, a residency rights. But again, that's where the details are missing. it's supposed to be a very quick path to the American citizenship. Now, what's that quick mean? I don't know. It can mean months. It can mean a year. I mean, in the EB-5 case, once you get your green card, you have to wait for 5 years to be eligible to become a citizen. Here, I'm assuming it's going to be much less than 5 years after you get your golden visa. Now, what are the advantages? The advantages of the golden visa are at least 3 advantages compared with EB-5. The one at the top of the list, as far as I'm concerned, is the fact that the person will be exempt from global tax. Now, why is this huge? Why is this huge? This is huge because, think about it. They make money right now. They don't make any money. They don't live here, so they don't make any money here. They make money in wherever they are, in whichever country they are. So by getting this card, they are going to be able to continue making their money there and don't pay any taxes in here. So if they were to do it to a regular citizenship program, their lifetime taxes that they would have to pay, the PV of that, for these ultra high net worth individuals, I gotta believe is way higher than $5 million. So you're basically prepaying the taxes that you would have paid throughout your life, and you get this card. Now, in EB-5, I mean, if we sort of, while talking about the golden visa, if we start comparing with the EB-5, that's a huge deterrent. And that is why the global tax. That's why the principal breadwinner almost never does the EB-5. If they're doing it for their child, let's say one child, if they have only one, the child goes, and then they give the money to him or her. If they're more than one, because EB-5 is this family thing, then one parent accompanies the children who are younger than 21 unmarried. But again, the breadwinner, the guy who has the bank account, never really does this. So maybe you could see a situation now, they will pay the $5 million, they will join their family, right? Because for them, the PV of their future taxes is like, you could see a situation where the guy's running his booking center in Grenada or Cayman Islands, buying widgets in China, selling them in Africa, and living in the United States, right? So he pays no tax because he's in a tax haven jurisdiction. His company is in Cayman Islands or British Virgin Islands or whatever, and he's buying in one jurisdiction, and he's selling in another jurisdiction. He's not really touching the United States except living here. So it's a huge advantage. The second thing is the residency requirement. The way we understand this, that the gold card is not going to have a residency requirement. Now, if you ask, I'm a lawyer, just for I'm not a lawyer. I'm a banker, right? So we're talking as if I am, I'm a lawyer. I should have said that in the beginning, the middle, and the end. Anything I say here should be checked with an immigration attorney, because I'm not a licensed immigration attorney. I'm not an attorney. So, I lost my train of thought. What was I explaining here? You probably have to cut this.
It's okay. It's okay.
No. What was I saying here?
Versus
a very important point. We did the PV of the taxes. Now we're doing the residency. Yeah, okay. So immigration attorneys tell their EB-5 applicants who get the green card with the EB-5 that they have to be here at least 6 months out of a year, right? My experience has been that it's not really enforced that much. What is enforced is that they can't be outside the United States more than 6 months. But if you
Okay.
look at the strict, requirement of the green card, you cannot be outside the United States more than you are inside the United States. So the immigration attorneys will advise their clients, rightly so, that they should be here, most of the time. So these big, ultra high net worth individuals who have factories and whatever in wherever they are, the gold card investors, they don't want that. So the fact that there is no residency requirement is another, major check. The third one, advantage, from what I can see, again, we didn't read anything, but the source of funds for the golden visa, I have to believe is going to be a much lighter version than the EB-5, right? Now, I wanted to tell you, there is a lawyer whom I respect tremendously, and I'll make a plug here for him. His name is Ron Klasko. He's probably one of the top, if not the top lawyer in this business, in the immigration business. He recently won a case. I think it's called Batineni. You can look it up. I have it somewhere here. I can never remember the name. Batineni versus Mayorkas. So in this lawsuit where he sued USCIS, he was able to get a federal judge significantly revise the way we do source of funds. Basically said that USCIS is going way beyond what the law really intended. Because the law said that the source of funds should be more likely than not that this is legitimate, that it's not arms dealing, it's not dirty money, whatever. But USCIS has been going 99%. We joke around that they're going to Adam or Noah or like oh, I got the money from this, all the way to Adam Baba, to like we joke around. But so they said, no, you just have to go one step back. And he recently won another case. It's called Zoe versus Noam, where this case that he won, but in any case, was ratified, was, like the judge agreed. And all these judges apparently appointed by Trump administration. So they're like very, very new, very, effective, So we expect that the EB-5 source of funds is going to get a little better, a little easier. But even so, the golden visa source of funds, I got to believe it is from the get-go is going to be probably much easier. So those are the reasons why I think it will be good. Now, will it pass? Maybe that will be your question. Does Trump have the, muscle to get this through the Congress? Maybe, maybe not. I want to say that he should, at the minimum, allow Americans to get a golden visa as well. Because if he makes it such that a foreigner who wasn't born in this country can have this privileged citizenship status, and yet a bona fide, like you and me, like a regular U.S. citizen here cannot, if we choose to, that would be a little strange. Like, in other words, if we also can pay the PV of our future, taxes
Earnings.
outside the United States, and we can pay it and then be done with it, because many Americans, I would imagine, have businesses, outside the United States, and I know for a fact cases where people who are not right now living outside the United States either have given their green card, given their citizenship with tremendous penalties, or are seriously considering because the tax burden they cannot tolerate. So if you cap it at $5 million, that might be very interesting to many people. It will cut the, you don't have to hire people to estimate what your lifetime earnings is going to be able to get. First of all, you won't have to leave United States citizenship. You will still keep your U.S. citizenship, pay the $5 million, and then live wherever you're living, with no problem. So I think this is my personal opinion. If you're going to give this to somebody who has absolutely nothing to do with the United States, I think you owe it to your own citizens here who choose that they want to avail themselves from this, right. At least give it to them as well.
Right. So, with that being said, do you think EB-5 is going to go away?
No, because it really serves two different people types. First of all, the EB-5 investor is not ultra high net worth. I mean, I would say their asset size is around $3 to $10 million at the most. I mean, like once they're more than $10-15 million, there are other ways that they can come here. And when it's less than 3, they really struggle because they also need money to live, because they're putting 800 in here plus the expenses and all that. So, and EB-5 is a job creation program. So every investor that comes here, directly or indirectly, is creating jobs. Whereas the gold card, I mean, as we just said, a person can continue living wherever he's living. He doesn't have any obligation to create jobs, nothing. So they can definitely coexist. What I think, my humble opinion is going to do is going to put a lot of pressure for the EB-5 investment amount to go up. Now, by law, it's capped until September 2027 by law, and by law, it's supposed to go up after that by inflation. So let's say the 5-year inflation, whatever it was from 2022 to 2027, whatever that is, it's supposed to jump by that. So digitally jump in 2027 is supposed to jump. But I guess, he cannot, everybody believes that he can't do this by rulemaking. This EB-5 right now came here with the RIA as with under Congress, under law. So any changes to it will have to be done with the law. So he needs the Congress support. Without that, he cannot. But I mean, you got a lot, majority Republicans in the House, in the Senate. I mean, it's possible that he can convince them. But I would imagine that even the Republicans, in other words, his own party, wouldn't want to would want to give the Americans the same rights. So as I said before, like if it's done such that it doesn't look like it's hurting, the people who are here, maybe it will be, maybe he can do it. And as far as EB-5, how is it going to? I think it's going to coexist. The night that they announced it, the Secretary of Commerce didn't have very nice things to say about EB-5. I don't know if you listened to it. But
yes, I did.
Yeah, that was there. But the day after, they softened it. They softened it. So, I mean, there's a huge, obviously, constituency here in the real estate and everywhere else, and it does a lot of good.
I mean, it's a big component, right? Developers, New York City, new developments. Coexist with EB-5. Most of the very well notable projects have used that component. With that being said, President Trump is very heavily handed in real estate, he and his family. So I don't foresee the EB-5 component really going away.
No, I don't think it's going away. As we just said, I mean, it might be adjusted. The parameters. He might because he clearly said it. He thinks it's too cheap. You're giving away American passport for less than $1 million. He thinks that doesn't make any sense. to argue with that. Hard to argue with that. He has a point. So so the number might go up, and that's why you see, you asked me, what we're seeing in the marketplace. What we're seeing in the marketplace, a double reaction. People who, because of this, are in the sidelines and say, they called me Marco Bey in Turkey. They say, Marco Bey, we're going to wait and see what's happening. We're afraid now. But then there are others who can't do it fast enough. So I'm getting calls from people that have been in the pipeline, years ago, like years ago, like what do you have? They want to, and the projects are selling like very, very fast. So the net EB-5 has picked up a lot. Some people have stopped, they just want to see because they're afraid. Especially because they don't know what's happening in the government. They're afraid that if USCIS starts losing people, am I going to wait another, 3-4 years for my, application to be processed? So there is some uncertainty out there, definitely, but there's also uncertainty about the numbers. So, but if, Trump in the next continuing resolution, he just puts in there and says EB-5 is going to be now $2 million, and then it passes. So then all of a sudden, in the middle of the period, next day, they say it's 2 million now, 2.5 million. So there's that scare, and people who believe that they want to do it, they're moving very fast. I want to also address one misconception that Trump is anti-immigration. And I want to do away with that misconception, and I can prove it. Before he was elected, he had this, quote unquote, crazy idea that if a person is here in an associate program, we're not talking about a bachelor's program, bachelor's for sure, master's for sure, but even in an associate or two-year undergraduate program, he wanted to give them green cards. I mean, you call this guy anti-immigration? I mean, it doesn't make, I don't think so. So recently now, he's talking about removing the EB, EB1, EB2, EB3, the EB, EB5 is one of those EBs, country caps or any caps. He wants to get rid of the caps. Now, that's not good for our business because now the whole Indians, they have no reason to do EB-5. They've been waiting there. I mean, immigration attorneys joke around that they don't have enough years to be like 200 years. They have to wait, in EB-2, EB-3 in India, and they're so retrogressed. So if Trump comes in, takes all the, caps away, and, they're all going to get green cards. Now, can he do that? Realistically, probably not. But it shows at least that he is not anti-immigration. He is anti-illegal immigration. He doesn't want people to come here just because, they just crossed the border. And that seems to me where his focus is. Maybe he's taking it to an extreme. Some, you can criticize that, breaking families apart and all. I'm not going to get political here. Not going to say that's the right thing to do. Obviously not. But calling him anti-immigration, I think is not correct.
Got it. Yeah. Whatever brings the funds in is directly related to immigration after all. So that is something he has to keep the open door policy for, I would think. Okay, I think that's definitely very helpful. Okay, Marco, this was incredible. And I think that it's going to be informative to so many who did not know about EB-5. Golden Visa, the differentiations between the both programs. I think this was a very helpful conversation for them to hear, for me as well. And if they wanted any more information in regards to EB-5, if they wanted to apply for EB-5, wanted to learn about the details and specifics, timelines, etc., where can they reach you?
They can certainly contact me directly. The email is very simple, info@americaeb5visa.com. And our website is essentially www.americaeb5visa.com. And we broadcast there in 25 different languages. Just about, wherever they are from, they'll find a language that they're comfortable with to at least read the basics of what it is in their own language that they're comfortable with. They can also go to other websites. I strongly recommend EB5investors.com. Incidentally, they rate us all the way on the top, at least for the time being. As far as broker dealers, if they go to the broker dealers there, they'll see our company. We have many articles that we have published with them and with others. They can go to the iiusa.org, which is sort of the industry advocate in EB-5. We will be more than happy to guide them in project selection, due diligence. We work hand in hand with immigration attorneys, where the immigration attorneys, file the papers, do the source of funds for the investors, and we support them and guide them in the project selection phase of their application. Yeah.
Great. And what I will do is that I will drop Marco's contact information down below with his links so that you can contact him directly. If you like what you saw here, please subscribe. We're going to be discussing all things real estate, whether new construction and anything that applies to real estate you can find here. I'm so happy to have you here. Marco, thank you so much for being here. This was an excellent session, and I'm sure that we've helped a lot of people clear misconceptions that they have in regards to EB-5 and the newly proposed Golden Visa program.